Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Fellowship in Essential Oils. I've got Fellowship in Essential Oils. I've got lemon, I've got lemongrass, I've got Litsea, I've got Melissa, and from Australia, I've got lemon scented gum, I've got lemon berry, and I've got lemon ironbark. Do we really need another lemon scented essential oil? That's what we're going to be exploring today, and hopefully have an answer by the end of our chat, because we're exploring the essential oil of lemon verbena. Now, this is an oil that I haven't had much experience with, but Liz, I believe you're a bit of a fan.
Oh, do you know, it's my very favourite herb. And I do like to say this, my bush has gone mad. And the timing is absolutely exquisite because it has actually come out today. So you can see it has the tiniest little pink, very pale pink white flowers. And it grows to be around about 6 foot in the right situations, but it doesn't like cold at all. You invariably I will lose it in the winter, but it's my favourite herb, favourite food. And I wouldn't say it was one of my favourite essential oils, but it is one of my favourite scents. And so I'm excited to tell you about it. So have you had any experience at all with it?
Very little. Of course, it is known for being a tea. You can get lemon verbena tea, and I've probably had that a couple of times. But as for the essential oil, which is gifted from the leaf, the South American native that was brought to Europe a few centuries ago, is still regarded, there's not much oil in each leaf, is there?
No, it's comparative to lemon balm, really, from that point of view. If I remember rightly, I think I looked up in Jeannie Rose's book about distilling, and I think if I'm right, she says you need 100 kilos of leaves to make 7 ounces. It must be 100 pounds of leaves to make 7 ounces of oil. So it's tiny, and it's one of those. It is very like lemon balm from that point of view. That you would why because it absolutely reeks of oil. It's really strong smelling. And when you cook with it, you have to be careful because it overpowers food. So where does it go? And I haven't studied it in depth enough to be able to answer that question. But it is, you would think it would be something that was, you could hardly smell the oil, but it's really, really strong in the leaf. And the leaves are weird. So they are very long and thin, almost, I think, a bit like willow leaves. When you touch them, they're very, very rough. They're like sandpaper. I've never come across a leaf like it, really. So it's just an interesting plant to be around, really. But there is quite a lot of research into lemon verbena as a product, as you say, in terms of tea and extract. But I think it's probably fair to say, and as I say, I haven't studied enough to be able to say for sure, but I would say that most of the properties that we see in the extracts probably don't transfer across into the essential oil. But one of the most important constituents that does, citral, geraniol, nerol, limonene, germacrine, all really strong constituents make up a big percentage of the top of the oil. So that's why you get that lemon scented sort of overview. But when you look at, I've got Tisserand Young open in front of me. So you would expect that lemony fragrance because of it having the name lemon. But actually, limonene is around about 10% of it. That's all. So it's not that strong. The biggest constituent is geraniol. And so I think I described to you, you said, well, why do I need another lemon scented essential? Oh, I don't think it smells of lemon myself. It's almost kind of a bit limey, but I would say the best description that I can come up with is it kind of smells like very green apples to me. It's got a very, very green fragrance, such a happy fragrance. But geraniol would make it kind of a flowery fragrance. That doesn't come through. Which is, again, interesting. So you get all of these sort of paradoxes with it. There's more questions than answers with this essential oil. And I have to say, as you know, I'm studying a degree in classical studies, and I'm getting more comfortable with the fact that you can't always know the answers, and it's quite liberating to me. So I'm just sitting with, I just don't know the answers to that. But one of the things that we do know is it is very, very stringent. So very good for the skin if you've got oily skin, grubby skin. My mum always used to say if you've got like polluted skin. So if you were by the, I lived by the M6, which is the busiest motorway junction in the country, so the amount of petrochemicals that were in the air, very good for stripping petrochemicals. So yeah, if you live like in London and you oh, what's going on with my skin, you only need the tiniest bit. Maximum dilution is 0.9%, so less than 1%. So less than one drop in a teaspoon of carrier oil. You need more than a teaspoon of carrier oil, but so very small, but it's so clarifying and brightening to the skin. So it's very good from that point of view. Exceptionally good for the digestive system. So as I say, when you eat it, my favourite way to eat it is so unhealthy, but to make a panna cotta with it in, it's just beautiful, creamy, delicate, sophisticated taste, but also very good for if you've eaten very rich foods, if you've had like lamb or pork or something that's quite hard to digest. The lemon verbena does the job of helping you to digest. And I would use the essential oil that same way as well if you were struggling with indigestion, or if you had sort of colicky, or what's the word I'm trying to say, bloating, all of those things, very, very good. But geraniol and nerol are funny sort of components because they're isomers of citral. So they don't work exactly the same way as citral, but you can get good sort of guesswork from how they will work. And citral is what's called an antinociceptive. So what it does is it switches off pain signaling in the, well, rats' paws usually is what they test it with in experiments, and then put the poor little monkeys' feet onto electric hot plates to see if they, well, when you use citral and isomers of citral, what happens is they can leave it there longer. Because it takes longer for them to actually sense pain. So for people who've got like fibromyalgia and things like that, where everything feels painful, what it does is it switches down the pain signaling. So it's really important from that point of view. But I think its most useful application is just that it smells happy. I mean, it's such a basic thing to say, but if somebody's having a time where they're melancholy, or they're suffering from depression, life's getting them down, or sluggish, and they don't want tos, it just goes, come on, let's go play. It just is like effervescent. It's such a beautiful fragrance. Lovely, lovely oil.
And that's really interesting as I'm listening to you talk about all the different things, especially how it can serve the body. Like you're talking about it being great for the face if there's excess oil or dirt, or if you've had a heavy meal, that it's really, really great. And on a spiritual perspective, where lemon verbena really kind of is spoken about a lot, is it's great for kind of cleansing and purifying space. But I think it's really great in those ways, or in those spaces where there is that heaviness or that density. I think it's a really great oil to use in the morning. Maybe if you've had a rough night, or yesterday was a bit rough and you kind of want to, like we do on the computer, the good old Control Alt Delete, where you want to reset in that type of way. It can be really great for that and kind of going forward in a far better way. It's really interesting. It's also been used historically as to attract love, but I wouldn't just use it. There are lots of great love oils, and I don't know if I'd necessarily bring lemon verbena in as a primary love oil. The sneeze that's waiting to come out, and I'm not sure when it's going to come out. But it is renowned for actually helping to enhance the power of other herbs and other essential oils. So it is great if you're making little bags or rollerballs or potions or whatever that may be as well. But I think I would actually use this one for particular people who find that they're attracted to people that they know aren't good for themselves. So maybe you just like, I'm even thinking of a friend of mine who loves the bad boys, the ones who are kind of that rebel, but then, after a few dates, they're not showing up, they're not returning calls, they're not respecting. And I think it can really help to nurture you to actually kind of go what's for your higher good rather than your lower good in that kind of, especially in relationships. And it has been used in the past from a psychological point of view of helping with bad habits, things that we just know aren't good for ourselves, but we just keep going back to them. So whether that be love or whether that be, an addictive behavior, this could be a really great one. And I find all lemon scented oils, in fact, they lift our vibration. They lift us up. We use Melissa for that. We use pretty much all the lemon scented oils in one way or another for moving us towards the light in that way. Another really interesting aspect I found is that lemon verbena is often used to inhibit dreaming. And so I don't know why you'd ever want to inhibit dreaming. I love dreaming. I always have weird and wonderful dreams that fascinate me. Fascinate no one else, of course. I dreamt a bit hanging out with Barack Obama a little while ago, but no one cares to hear about anyone else's dreams. But if someone was having issues, I use Juniper Berry, really good for night terrors. But if for some reason you don't want to dream as much, then lemon verbena has been used historically for just stopping dreams. So you could use it for that as well. But I guess, again, that kind of echoes back to that idea of when there's something dense that needs to be kind of shifted away, lemon verbena steps in really beautifully.
Yeah, I think so. So two things to speak to there. When you were talking about love and stuff like that, one of its primary uses through time has been to be a base for potpourri. So when you're like scenting a room, obviously you wouldn't have used essential oil so much in Elizabethan times, for example, but this would be to purify the space of the room. And as you say, you would be going, and interestingly, when you think about the chemistry of it, you would be going more towards the roses, the geraniums, those kind of things. That's what's seen within the actual chemistry of it as well. You can see how it would blend in with them. So yeah, I agree with that it really does sort of bring out the fragrance of things and bring out the energy. But the when you were talking about somebody who like is attracted to the bad boys, I would use it in a slightly different way. If somebody's been to your house and really kind of dumped everything there, all of their crap, and you're like, I had this atmosphere really nice. What have you done to my atmosphere? Send them on the way. Then the lemon verbena comes out and it just kind of puts the sparkle back in and the purity again. So we're not necessarily talking about, like, for example, you might myrtle or cedarwood from a spiritual cleansing point of view. I don't really see it as a spiritual essential oil as such. But I think as an everyday cleanser of just like, oh, don't bring your crap here. And just like, oh, let's get it back again. It's very, very fast work in that way. But in the same way, when they do that to you, if you're like me, you're like, well, thank you very much. I've just taken all of that on. I'm going to dream about that now, dream about your crap. And I'm going to worry about that. And you have really affected and disturbed my auric field. Again, fantastic for clearing that out. And when you were talking about stopping dreaming, yeah, that is how I would use it. I'd be like, I don't want to dream about your stuff. Your stuff is your stuff. Shouldn't have bought it here, and so that, and shutting that off. So personally, I would say it doesn't stop dreaming. I would say it shuts out everybody else's vibrations so that it's your dreaming. So cleanses your dreaming if possible. And what, on one side, I've said it's not a spiritual oil. I do think from a magic point of view, if you kind of have that sense that, I don't know, has it ever happened to you where you think, somebody's watching me? They're watching me from outside. They just, I just can sense them on me, and almost like that they're coming into my dreams that way. Again, it's like, nope, thank you. You don't belong here. So yeah, useful from that point of view. Are
I
you
don't know.
recovering from that sneeze?
That sneeze won't come out. I was muting myself as you're talking, hoping it would come out, but it's gonna hang around the whole chat. Um, I don't know if the marketing team would agree with this for lemon verbena, but I'm kind of thinking that a nickname for it could be the crap shovel.
It's because I can't use any other words. But yeah, I do think it is. It's like that. It is all the other crap that everybody else gives you. Yeah.
It's interesting. We were talking, and I mentioned juniper berry before being really good at. I find it for just stopping night terrors. It's also juniper berry is an oil that I recommend for empaths. I find it really helps you to be the conduit rather than the container. We don't want to shut off that empathetic or being able to tune into other people's emotions, but we don't want to weigh it on heavily. How do you think a combination of lemon verbena, which is very light in its energy, and juniper berry, which is very kind of is happy to dwell in the darkness and the mysterious. How do you think that'd go as a duet?
So, as you know, I hear essential oils as musical notes. Yeah. So have you ever experienced it where you hit the two keys next to each other on the piano together, and it's like that's not a very nice noise. So I need to go up one to make it into a harmony that's discordant. Those those two seem like they are too close to me. That they would feel odd together. When you think about what the chemistry is like and what it smells like, it wants to be with flowers. It doesn't want to be with conifers.
Got you. Yeah. So what would you blend it with, do you think, on a maybe first of all for a nice smelling aroma, but also from an energetic point of view?
Well, actually, daft as it seems, one of the reasons so I'm going to say something else before I answer that. So one of the reasons that people talk about it, and it's got quite a bad name, really, because it is one of the most adulterated essential oils there is, because you'll see it for like £5, etc. And how is that going to work when it's like, I told you the ratios from Jeannie Rose's book, you make a hydrosol from lemon verbena rather than essential oil because it's just so little. So you're not going to get a bottle of pure essential oil for £5. It's just not. So therefore, mostly it's going to be adulterated, and then what happens then is you tend to have skin sensitization issues. So people will talk about it being a skin sensitizing oil. Actually, it isn't, but most of the ones that you buy are because they're adulterated. But in the same way, it's used to adulterate other essential oils. And in particular, if you look at Melissa essential oil, you don't see it on sale so much these days, but you might see Melissa type. And Melissa type isn't pure lemon balm essential oil. It's been cut with lemon verbena because it's got such a similar scent. And so that brings the price down oddly, based on everything I've just said, oddly. But so those two are really good together because naturally they go together. They're very, very similar. So in terms of nightmares, then that would be a really good one. But it also, like I say, it goes to things like rose, geranium, all of those things that are uplifting, relaxing. And it's kind of got that uplifting, relaxing thing. And if you use it in, for example, you might say, it wouldn't be one that you would pick for concentration per se. You would pick something like basil or peppermint or rosemary, but it does have that kind of opposite way of working. So they're all very, very stimulating, right? You concentrate because you're switched on. But the energetics of lemon verbena are relaxing and focusing. So if you're with like people before an exam that are frenetic, then all you're going to do is catch that frenetic. So it's quite a good one from that point of view of being like, right, I'm up for this, not necessarily to help you recall. It doesn't do all of that stuff that rosemary does, but I'm up for it, that stuff. So the herbs on that side work really, really well. But herbs, flowers, I think are the main things you would put with it. And maybe some resins, but conifers are too close to the smell to be good, I think.
Another little small thing that I think it would be really great for is any kind of inner child work because of that kind of uplifting aroma if you were kind of doing any, if you've been through something traumatic in the past, or just I think anytime you want to recapture that childlike joy, this is a great essential oil to kind of, diffuse. Or I know a lot of people like to, there's a lot of recipes out there, especially for hand creams, which is quite interesting to kind of just bring that kind of aroma in. Because I guess because it's so powerful, you only need a little bit in a large pot or a large tube or whatever you're making in that kind of way to bring back that kind of joyous energy. So I think it's definitely one for bringing joyous energy, and for any healing work where we're shifting out of the darkness into the light, it would be great.
Yeah, and funny enough, I mean, I hadn't thought of that till you said it, but my mum always insists on Verbena hand wash because it's just really, really refreshing. But I think the one time recently that I have used it a lot, and purely from an inhalation point of view, that rather than being on my hands, etc., was when we were taking Daryl to radiotherapy every day, and it was like, and we've got to do it again. Oh my God, we've got to do it again. And I know he's going to come back feeling worse. Okay, we can do this. Come on. That brightness of just being able to put that face back on, because sometimes it's not just about you, is it? It's about the people around you. And likewise, for example, if you were maybe going through a divorce, or there were arguments, but you've got to have the happy face on for the kids when they come home from school. Sometimes you need to be able to move yourself from one place to another place very quickly, and it is really good for doing that.
I love that. I love that. One Talking about the astrology of it, one angel that I actually found that is connected to lemon verbena is Anael, Anael, which is one of the guardian angels of the planet Venus. And so this is an angel that when you want to find harmony in relationships or anything around beauty or aesthetics, you can call upon Anael. Now, Anael, one of the ways you can work with her is getting a white bit of paper, either a red, pink, or blue pen, and writing your request and folding it up, and then popping 2 drops of lemon verbena on the bit of paper. And normally Anael can work within the cycle of a lunar month. So you should start to see shifts within a lunar month as well. So would I dedicate this oil as a Venus oil? I'm a bit torn, because also, my flower rules, it does have white to purple flowers. Is it a lunar oil for the white flowers? Is it a Jupiter oil for the purple color to it? I'm a little bit torn on what planet I would associate lemon verbena with. What about yourself?
So I'm in the same place as you, but I have decided, given that it's so good for digestion, and breaking sort of fats down. So, for example, fats on the skin, then that would say to me Jupiter. But of course, it can fall under different rulerships. And I think the fact, I mean, I've never heard that myth about a nail, and it's not an angel, I know. But also, when you look at the chemistry at the beginning, you've got geraniol, which is definitely like a Venusy kind of thing. Neral, Venusy kind of thing. We think of neroli, that's romance. So I definitely think that, although it doesn't look like it from a doctrine of signatures point of view, with what it's got white flowers, they're barely pink. It's certainly not moon. There's nothing in terms of it doesn't stir the deep emotions like moon medicines do. It's like just kind of move, and so it does have that sort of expansive, joyous nature of Jupiter. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, just in reflection, earlier today, I was looking through one of my favorite magical authors, Scott Cunningham's book, and he dedicates lemon verbena to Mercury. So, again, as we always say, you're not right, I'm not right. We're just here to kind of get people's minds thinking, and they can work out what aligns with them. So
yeah, and whilst I have to say I can't see Mercury, but it does have a mercurial aspect in that, like, everything about it, you say one thing and then the opposite is true. Like, for example, why is there so little essential oil in a smelly leaf? That's a mercurial aspect. But nah, I wouldn't really classify it as that. But interesting to hear.
I think the only Mercury aspect we've actually touched on throughout this conversation has been when you were talking about, you would use it before an exam to kind of get the frame of mind right and relax a little bit more. But as you said, it's not really a exam performance kind of oil either, is it?
Well, so Mercury also, to a certain extent, rules the receptors of the body. So we could say it through there's different rulerships of different aspects of the receptors. But yeah, like no. I'm not
Fair
feeling
enough.
it. Sorry, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah. So we're not too sure. We haven't come to a firm decision. Or you're going Jupiter. What about chakras?
Um, Again, I don't really think it's necessarily the one that really works on the chakras that much, to be honest. Where you'd expect a white flower to open the crown chakra, I don't think it's necessarily got any kind of spiritual journey. If you were to say the flowers were purple, you might say, well, and actually from a mercurial point of view, you might say brow chakra. Nah, I don't think it necessarily works on the solar plexus. I just don't think it's that kind of energetic, full stop.
Yeah, okay. Again, I was reading another author who was saying, yeah, it's definitely third eye crown chakra, and I'm like, no, that's not fitting right. I do tend to personally default lemon scented oils to the solar plexus chakra, and the fact that you talked about digestion, which is ruled by the solar plexus chakra, and the fact that it helps us, to shine our light and to be a bit more positive. I guess I could. I'm not convinced either. We're not very convincing today. But yeah, if I had to choose one, that would be my choice right now, I think. But I'm open to be convinced otherwise.
Well, I think there's power in sometimes saying that doesn't fit in that paradigm. Not everything does it? And I don't think I don't think it is a chakra oil. In terms of the solar plexus really speaks to identity. Well, where's identity in that story? It isn't, is it? It's almost about like, well, I'm going to just be some fake it till I make it in a way. Well, that's a different thing entirely. So
Yeah.
I don't think it actually exists on that sort of spiritual level. I think it's physical, emotional, mental. So perhaps that's these, yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting when you're saying maybe it doesn't work too well with the chakras. So obviously, my latest book is all about using different essential oils for balancing each of the chakras. And there ended up being, it was a total accidental fluke actually, but exactly 200 different essential oils that I spoke about or wrote about in that book. What I found it when I was writing my book with Vanessa Jean, Gifts of Essential Oils, and the same with this one as well is as I start writing and I kind of get to that end point, there almost becomes, it feels like the queue at the nightclub. And there's like a whole bunch of oils going, can I come in? Can I come in? Can I come in? I'm like, okay, I can squeeze that one in. I can squeeze that one in. And I had some really unusual, rare oils and absolutes kind of screaming, going, no, I need to be in there. I need to mention I've got something to offer. Lemon verbena is definitely on my radar. It's not what I use on a regular basis, though. But for the chakra book, it just didn't. It didn't push its way in. It got.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, it is
Yeah.
interesting. And I think you and I kind of work differently to other people, that we don't just like take a piece of information and go, well, that's what it is. We want to explore why. We want to dig deeper. And I think the point is that the deeper you dig, sometimes you go, I don't actually think that information's right. And sometimes, a lot of the time, you'll go, okay, I'm really starting to understand what they were talking about now. I didn't get it before, but now I've gone deeper. I get it. But sometimes you will dig and just go, now I understand that deeper. I've explored that deeper. I don't agree with what you say, and I don't think it's a chakra oil.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, well, we'll leave that one open ended. Now, our question that's become famous over the last few months or so as we've dived into these more rare oils. It is an expensive oil. It obviously, I must admit, I don't have any in my collection at the moment, and I am fascinated to smell the aroma since you talk about this kind of apple scent and see if I can notice that as well. But do you think it's an oil we need?
No, I think it depends who you are. For me, as a Cancerian and as an empath, I can very easily be dragged down by everything that's going on around me. And as a mother, that's not fair on everybody else. So I have to be able to switch that off and be able to switch to another face. And like as a carer, I also need to be able to go, well, actually, my shit's not important today. Yours is. This is the face. So for some people, it might be putting their slap on and the makeup and whatever in the morning that does that. I'm not that person. I need to be able to kind of address that, and that oil does it. So for me, that's really useful. But I think unless you're that kind of person, or if you were a perfumer and you really wanted a good green note, because they're quite rare to find, so if you wanted a really good green note, then you should definitely have it in your collection. But I think in any other capacity, there's other things you can use.
Yeah, very much so. So I guess unless, we might prescribe it for all empaths and anyone else who needs a bit of a crap shovel, but it's not one that probably everyone needs to run out and, spend, because it is a more expensive Premier oil as well. We don't necessarily need to have it. There's, like you said, others we can work with as well.
The only other thing, application I would say, and I hadn't really thought about this till we've been talking, was, if you've got a teenager who's really led by other people, and, if they're going for exams and, maybe their best friend's a bit negative about it, and it's going to drag them down, then just to drop on for exams and stuff would be really useful, of kind of just surrounding them with their own glow, if you like, rather than picking up everybody else's. And likewise, if you've got, I'm thinking about a friend of mine whose daughter had anorexia and was really being led in like video chat rooms, and they were almost doing like eating competitions and stuff, then just kind of that sort of a way, not even like having to have the conversation of you stop listening to them. I think lemon verbena would have that conversation for you.
Yeah, that theme of really get again, the crap shovel of just connecting or not being drawn towards things that don't serve us and our growth and our development. Lemon verbena seems really good for that.
Well, yeah, but also I will undo what you said then, because I don't think sometimes, I think we'll often say things that don't serve us as like a metaphor for like darkness. But actually the spiritual journey sometimes does take you into a dark place, but you do need to come out of it quick sometimes. And so I would say, rather than not service, because I do think dark can be very servicing, but that idea of like you move from the dark place to the light place fast.
I'm going to take you. I want to dig a little bit deeper on something you've been talking about. You kind of like, I'm paraphrasing what you're saying, but it's kind of, you can use it as a bit of a brave face kind of oil. You know what I mean? When it's not your concern. So obviously, it's fine to put a brave face on for a certain circumstance. You've got to do something a day. You've got to put your best foot forward. Obviously, we don't want to rely on lemon verbena or that as a kind of coping mechanism where we're constantly putting on a brave face and we're actually not dealing with those issues. So in your Rolodex of essential oils now, where we put on that brave face, but now we've got that time to kind of go back and unpack that stuff, what oil would you reach for then? You've used lemon verbena during the day. We put that to the side. What do you go for now?
Cyprus is taking in the dark place.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. To let it flow, let it come up, let that pain and grief. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the experience of this. That's the difference between an aromatherapist and being somebody who sells essential oils, because when you're an aromatherapist, you're actually physically on the journey with a one-to-one, in a one-to-one situation with a person. So if I was like treating somebody who had been in my situation of, right, but you can't really go to that dark place because the dark place is the cancer, you've got to keep on going there, then I would be saying to her, right, but we'll address that later. That's part of the job of a therapist, to hold space, to make sure that space is being protected. And yeah, so I think that's an important distinction, that sometimes it doesn't, we can't like say it's really important to not put a very brave face on it, because sometimes you have to. And then comes the time of, right, well, okay, that's done, that we're out the other side of that. Okay, we need to take some time and address that situation.
Okay, well, hopefully we've given people a bit of food for thought. We'd love to know in the comments, have you got lemon verbena? How do you use it? And from our conversation today, do you think this is one that you need in your collection as maybe a physical tool, or as a as a spiritual, emotional support tool as well? Liz, I think you got one more thing to share.
Yeah, just remembering something that I'd read in Tisserand and Young, that well, we definitely do want to use it in pregnancy for a start off, because there is, I don't know where the evidence comes from. I think this is maybe herbal evidence, old, but it says that it increases uterine contractions. Whether that's tested now, and you know, but we don't use it in pregnancy. But also it interacts with the way that diabetes medication is metabolized. So if somebody is on metformin or glycoside, Ozempic, those kinds of things, you would want to have a look to see in the little book how they are metabolized, because this interacts with CYP2B6. And as I say, that is some diabetes medications. But if you're just using it as an inhalation, that doesn't matter. But if you're using it as topically regularly, you want to be able to see, well, is that going to do something strange to my diabetes meds?
Well, it was interacting with CB. What was that one?
CYP2B6. And as
That's
I say, thank you to Young. Go on.
That's a character in Star Wars, isn't it?
Yes, of course. And he is hyper. Hello. Yes.
And that's all we've got for you this week in Fellowship in Essential Oils. Come back next week and I'll have more bad jokes for you as well. But it's been a pleasure diving into lemon verbena. Until next week, take care and blessed be.
Bye-bye.